For those who have been eagerly anticipating and waiting for my videos on trade deadline coverage, I apologize. It has been a hectic morning. I've got too much crap to do. But we have ourselves a full trade detail summary by Frank Saravalli in regards to the Edmonton Oilers grabbing themselves defenseman Troy Stecher and a 2024 7th round pick. This is a pretty good move, honestly. Take a look at this. The Oilers have to give up a 2027 fourth in order to get a guy who I'm going to peg as one of the most underrated and hardworking bottom pair defensemen in the NHL. Of course, if you've been familiar with this YouTube channel and all the stuff that I've made videos about over the years, I have a deep affinity for Troy Stecher and the game that he plays. Not only did I meet the guy earlier this summer at the Minoru Richmond what is the thing called? The Troy Stecher Foundation? Yeah, that's what it was. But Troy Stecher also happens to be a landmark player for me personally, because the moment he had signed his first contract with the Vancouver Canucks in 2016-17, that was the very first video I made on Hockey News that actually signaled to me that we can make videos as a career. So I personally have a very deep affection to the story of Troy Stecher, but he's a Arizona Coyote guy, 5 points, 47 games played. Not really ever like the best point producer. I mean, he did have 24 points in his rookie year with the Canucks. That was his best season offensively. But he's going over to the Edmonton Oilers for a very cheap price of a 2027 fourth. And the Oilers are getting themselves a 2024 seventh as well. So not only are they giving up a fourth for a seventh and going forward into the future by 3 years, but they're also getting the services of Stecher, who will pretty much max out as like the bottom pairing extra depth defender. He's 29 years old, 5'10", 185, right-handed guy, signed till the end of this season, making $1.1 million. And there's no salary retained either, so this is pretty good for the Arizona Coyotes. I mean, when you really break it down, Troy Stecher was a free agent signee, and because they signed him earlier last summer, they're able to turn a 7th round pick into a 4th. So that's some long-term planning right there, like really long-term planning, considering the pick is going to be in 3 years. But at the end of the day, this is a guy who is going over to a playoff contender. Stecher will now have played for, the Canucks. He also played for the Red Wings and the Kings and the Coyotes and the Flames and the Oilers. He has been everywhere, man. It's crazy. What is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different teams in the span of 3 seasons. That's kind of insane when you really think about it, but it just goes to show you that this is a player whose services are valued and who will be seen as a commodity, a useful tool for any team going out there and using him. He's a hard worker. He does well in his own zone. He can score some nice goals once in a while. The 2 goals he had in the 2019-20 bubble playoffs, one of them was just an absolute dagger to the St. Louis Blues. I will definitely never forget that goal. The other one I happen to have forgotten already, which is unfortunate, but still, Troy Stecher can contribute offensively once in a while, as indicated by the 3 goals he had with the Calgary Flames last year after the deadline. His overall offensive repertoire, though, mostly came in the form of assists and being able to pass the puck and headman the puck up pretty nicely. So Troy Stecher, treat him well, Edmonton. This is a pretty good player, I would say, and somebody that Oilers fans would come to love after just a short while. I mean, that seemed to have been the pattern everywhere he has gone. From Vancouver, Troy Stecher was a much beloved defenseman. It was kind of whack that they lost out on him. In Detroit, I know a lot of Wings fans said that they admired the way that Stecher approached defense. LA, similar story, especially when Stecher was playing with Edler. So there's a reuniting of the Vancouver Canucks duo right there. And then in Arizona, I mean, they signed him twice, so you can understand that they appreciate his value as well. In Calgary, he was all right too, but they didn't end up using him in the postseason that year. But either way, for Edmonton, this will be a pretty good addition. I will say, as well, we did make a video yesterday talking about the Sam Carrick move, and I kind of got my Carricks mixed up. I was told that by a lot of y'all in the comments section, which I totally take fault for. That's my fault. I confused Sam Carrick with Connor Carrick, who also happened to be an Anaheim Ducks guy, but who is a defenseman. But Sam Carrick, unfortunately, has no relation to Connor Carrick at all. They are not related. They just have the same last name. But Connor Carrick was the defenseman that I was talking about that could be an extra depth option. Sam Carrick, the real guy going over to Edmonton, is a center. So everything that I said about Sam Carrick yesterday, you can pretty much copy and paste it into the Troy Stecher conversation over here. And a lot of that was just talked about right here. We talked about the defense core, how there are 6 guys who have been pretty all right. Ekholm, Bouchard, you can't break that up. Ekholm has been a good stabilizing defensive presence. Bouchard has been Bouchard. Darnell Nurse and Desharnais, you've got 2 just brute force guys going out there. They block shots. They make hits. It's a pretty good system they run. And then on the third pairing, I've always been a big fan of Brett Kulak, and Cody Ceci has seemingly been pretty all right this season, especially compared to what we're used to hearing about him. So for Troy Stecher, this will be a very nice extra option if any one of these guys were to go out on injury. Sure, he's no Evan Bouchard, he's no Desharnais, he's no Ceci, he's a lot smaller than these guys, he doesn't produce as many points as Bouchard, but if you need a guy to fill in who will work his tail off, then Troy Stecher is indeed that guy. I will vouch for him to the moon and back 150% because there are 5 fan bases pretty much that'll go out there and say the same thing in Vancouver, Detroit, LA, Arizona, Calgary. So is that 5? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, that is 5. Good on me for being able to count off the top of my head. But Troy Stecher, very, very nice extra depth addition here for the Oilers. He is a depth defenseman. He's a solid puck mover. He is a hard worker. He blocks shots. He always goes. You will never see Troy Stecher go out there and dog it on a shift. He will always put in effort, and that's one of the most admirable qualities of the way he plays the game. He's exhibited that year in and year out, which is why he's always getting traded. And as Frank Saravelli goes out there and mentions, he's been traded at the deadline for 3 years in a row now. Twice from Arizona, once from Detroit to LA, Calgary, and now Edmonton. So Oilers fans, this is pretty cool. I'd say that Stecher is one of the few players that has started to make that Pacific Canadian road trip feasible. I mean, from Vancouver to Calgary to Edmonton, who else has done that over the past few years? There are a bunch of guys who played for both Calgary and Vancouver. Tanev, Markstrom, Toffoli. I mean, those guys all went over pretty much at the same time, which is kind of ridiculous when you think about it, but Troy Stecher's adding Edmonton to his list of Infinity Stones as well. So let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. If you're an Edmonton Oilers fan, how do you feel about Troy Stecher heading over to your team? And if you're an Arizona Coyotes fan, I know y'all exist. I don't want to pretend the Coyotes don't have any fans. What are your thoughts on this return? You essentially moved up from a 7th to a 4th. That's it. Although it'll cost you Troy Stecher and 3 years worth of time to do that. So what are your thoughts on this entire thing? It's a very small trade in the grand scheme of things, but at the end of the day, Troy Stecher is somebody that I adore as a hockey player so much, so I just had to go out there and make this video. Thoughts in the comment section below. I hope you enjoyed this video. And bye.